In today's video, what we're going to be covering is how to use the Apptivo solution to send out a professional looking quote or estimate, depending on your terminology, and send that off to your customer. So Apptivo is a very big solution. We're just talking about one small part of it today, but we're going to talk about just what is the quoting solution. So we'll spend just a minute or two at a very high level, and then we're going to dive straight into the Estimates app, and then what are the different components that you're thinking about. So today it's all about how you personalize and change the presentation of this customer out, or of this estimate out to your customer. So what we'll do is we'll look through the few different features available that help you control that. And then we're going to focus in on the print web layout, which we'll talk about what that is in a moment, but that's kind of the key of the customization that we're going to do. And then the final part, we're actually going to go through what it looks like in order to take a brand new company with no configuration and go set it up from scratch. All right, so to start off, the quoting solution, which basically from here on forward, like quoting and estimates is going to be exactly the same in Apptivo. So it's our estimates application. That's kind of the key thing in place. Many of you might already be talking about using the CRM. So the estimate is where the quote itself happens, but you could have an active sales opportunity. There's a flow to generate an estimate from an existing opportunity. And then also an estimate can be turned into many different things. So you turn it into a project. It has a built-in invoicing module if you just want quoting and invoicing. It's a common pair that you do. So the idea is we're just going to talk about the quote itself in the presentation. Although a lot of this personalization is going to apply to similar apps, like if you do decide to use Apptivo Invoices, the same kind of personalization tools are going to be available there. So as far as this quote, we're going to build it inside of Apptivo. We can access that from anywhere on the web. And then the customer, so there's going to be a button for us to either just to print out a file inside of Apptivo, and we can print it out and give it to the customer in person, or we can email it direct to them from within the system, and then we generate an email message and attach a PDF file to it. Okay, so then now let's kind of dive further into the components, which we just mentioned. So they're getting this email and the PDF. But when we talk about how you're going to set up a quote and present it to the customer, I mean, just think about it, like even if you're coming from a spreadsheet process right now, you have the fields and information that you use to generate the quote. These are the products and services that they're looking for. This is the customer's name, their business information, like it's what goes into the quote itself. But not all this information is going to be presented to the customer. So for example, maybe in your quote, you need to do some cost calculations, or you just have like some internal product numbers and stuff inside of your database, but the customer doesn't need to see all that stuff. They just need to see a product name and a price. So the fields and data is just everything that you get to configure. So it's called the master layout in Apptivo. That's where you're going to start off, although most of what you need for a quote is already right out of the box in the default configuration. That's what you and your team are going to be seeing. So just keep note of that because it's different between what you versus a customer is going to see. And then it's really like all the information that's going to be unique to each estimate. So it's going to change every time. So things like if you have a standard block of text for a legal agreement, that doesn't go into the fields and data because that's going to be the same every time. So this is like the number of the estimate, the customer details, everything like that. So you have the fields and data, and then we have the two different ways that the customer is going to see it. Because if we're going to just print the file and we never want to email, we can pretty much ignore this middle section. It's not mandatory. But this is the email message. So the natural flow is you press a button, it says email this quote to my customer. And then there'll be, a subject and a body. And you might want to personalize the message. Say, okay, please find this PDF file attached, which our system will automatically do. Or if you want, you can click on the hyperlink below. So inside of the email, we give both the PDF and this web hyperlink. But the email template itself can be customized. Let's say in some scenarios you don't want to include the hyperlink or you want to have a different message. In this case, you can have 5 different email templates, and before you send an estimate, you just pick which email template that you want to use. So there's the email message, and then the last part is really kind of the bulk of it, which is it's the PDF and the web layout. So you also see it referred to as the print web layout inside of the app itself. And this is like the true presentation to the customer. So think of it as the fields and data. The print and web layout is naturally very similar to the fields and data, but it's kind of a limited version. So just think you have the ability to show everything that you've inputted in this main area. But as we mentioned, there's certain details that you don't want to go and include in what the customer sees. So when it comes down to the templates, we can selectively include only certain fields. In any custom fields that you decide to generate, they're also fully supported in the print and web layout. Although when it comes down to this, Bear in mind the PDF file, so that's just, we create a PDF file. You can create as many as you want. I mean, you could even like apply 2 different templates and generate that. But then the web link, that actually does have a little bit of special functionality. So there's a simple approval or rejection process right on the quote itself. So from the web link, they can press a button that says, I want to ask for a change or I want to approve it. And then, you can go drive workflow based off of that in your Apptivo site. And once again, you can support multiple different templates. So, an example would be, let's say if sometimes I sell only products and sometimes I'm selling products and services, or if I have a bunch of legal agreements that the text that needs to be on there only for certain types of deals, I can have a bunch of different templates and just choose the right one when sending it out. Okay, so these are the major components of what we're going to go and put into an estimate. So now let's just kind of focus in on the key area, which is this print web layout. And here, I want to quickly hop into the application, and we're going to show you around. So what I've got is I've actually got 2 accounts. There's Carrie. We're going to come back to her. I'm going to show her in a moment. And right now, we're logged in as Jackie. So Jackie, she's logged into her company, Ricardo Specialty Landscaping, and we're going to hop on over to her Estimates app. And I just want to show you, okay, well, first of all, let's take a look at what an estimate looks like. This is, very lightly customized. Today is not really much about how we're going to go and customize it. It's more about, okay, well, what are the tools available for you to put one together? So here what we have is a nice, simple quote. Take note of the fact that it's called quote because out of the box, when you get set up, it'll be called estimate. This is one of the things you can just change. So every detail on this page right here, from each piece of text, if you want more text, less text, you get to control all that. So some organizations are going to want, a very simple quote like this. I just have a few products and services. I want to toss them in there. I can have, multiple different tables of products and services, or I can have a bunch of text and other custom information, depending on your requirements. Sometimes you want more of a proposal style where you have a bunch of written text with a lot of details unique to them. Sometimes it's just a simple list of products. But this is the end results of a quote. The way it's delivered to the customer is you'll see from inside of the app, there's just a button to send it out. So as far as that presentation goes, actually we'll quickly look at here. So on the overview tab, these are all my fields and information, which you can see that matches up with the PDF file we saw a moment ago, but there's a couple other details like the item code is present here. And then I can send this at any time. You notice there's a button just to download a PDF file. And automatically my email pops up right here, although you could have multiple templates. So we'll see that in a moment. And then you just have your different text available. So it will embed the layout inside of the email itself. This will follow your print web layout. And then here is that hyperlink we spoke about. And then you'll see the PDF file attached. So when a customer clicks on that hyperlink and views it, it'll still follow the same layout that you've selected for the PDF file. But you'll notice it just looks a little bit different. And you have some actions that you can take on top. So the customer could just choose to download the PDF file, no problem. Or they can come in here and either approve or reject the deal, just using the buttons up there. They can even come and request a change from you. So you go through, that just tells them your quote's been approved, and we move on to the next step. So I wanted to quickly show that before we dive into the configuration, but really we're gonna go focus in on that new company that we'll create in a moment, or that we'll, begin configuring. But before that, let's go and let's talk about the print web layout, because that's what really this is all about. So where do we go to configure that presentation to the customer? So we're going to head into the settings, click these 3 dots just to the left of search estimates. And this is located underneath the customize app section. So we have master layout, but then print web layouts. That's the key. And in here, what you'll see is I currently have 2 templates. I have products only, and then the default template that I'm utilizing. You notice I can pick default, which is default, not very original. But the idea is this is where I can manage many different presentations. Not to be confused with the email templates. So in here, that email message itself, I can customize. So if I wanted to come in and create a brand new template, it's pretty straightforward. You type in your message. So I would say, okay, dear first name and all that. But under here, what I have is this insert attributes button. And it works a little bit different in the print web layouts, but the concept remains the same, where any of the attributes that are sitting on that estimate, such as the contact's name, I can use them as a variable. So that way, when I choose to draft an email, it's going to go and personalize it with all of the estimate details. So one common thing to do is you can tell them up front about, if there's any discounts or the total. So instead of putting that long, like, the full estimate on the bottom, I could just quickly tell them your estimate total came to, and then we can go and we can input that field. So we just punch in estimate total, and then we can go ahead and we create that. So then that becomes usable. Otherwise, the print web layouts, this is what we want to focus in on. So we're going to take a look here at the default template. Okay, so inside of the template, what we're going to be able to do is change pretty much everything. So the way it starts is this is a drag and drop editor. So right out of the box, you're going to be able to click on anything that you want and make adjustments. So you notice I just click on estimate date here, and then over on the right, I have the different options I can control about this field. So in this example, you notice we had already changed everything else to quote number, so I could change that to quote date. As you make adjustments, it's pretty much just in real time. Simply click away anywhere on the page, and you'll notice the yellow confirmation for the template updated. So that lets me know that it's been saved. Every change I'm doing in here can be saved within the revisions. So I can automatically go and restore anything in case, you delete something on accident. Otherwise, I can always click back to the palette tab if I ever want to insert a new section or anything like that. So what we do is we click on a field and you'll see it changes it to the inspector tab. So the inspector modifies a specific field. Clicking back to the palette gives you an option of sections and then the different attributes. So in this example, we might want to create a brand new section with like the note that we provided to the customer. So there's actually a standard field in Apptivo where I can type a custom message on each quote. And I chose to remove that in this example, but you can bring it right back in. So first what I would want to do is I could either add it to this section, or let's say create a new one column section right below. So you'll put that in there, and then I'll choose an attribute to put in that section. So here I have a list of all the attributes, but what you'll see is the common attributes. This will be something like your business logo and such, which you don't have to do too often because we put your business logo and address in by default, which we'll see in the new company. But then there's one key thing here called free text, which we'll talk about in a moment. But then as we come down, so you have business attributes, so your logo, your phone number, and everything. And then we'll see the customer attributes. So now I can get all of their personal information, the phone number. And if you decide to create a custom field in the customer's app, it will come and show up inside of here and be available for selection. And then any of the fields present inside of the estimates master layout are available. So in this case, we're looking for the notes to customer field. That's an attribute here, so we can see it's available right there. And then we can choose to include that in our section. So we could change the text of notes to customer. You see I can control like the font size and such, but we'll just leave it nice and standard, and then it's saved. Now when you make a change to the PDF editor, it's instant, meaning if we go back and we decide to print this estimate again, we'll just print it down or download it right to our computer, then we see it'll take instant effect. So anything that has this template selected will now have the notes to customer present right there. So heading back in there, let's hop into the template and really just kind of show the last couple things, because a lot of it is just picking the right fields and using the right arrangement of everything. So as we come down further, all the attributes are pretty much the same thing. But there's one other one you want to take note of, which is down here in our tables. These work a little bit differently. So you can come and customize how the tables look. One thing is you click on this display button. So first you get to pick which columns are present in the master layout. So I can add and remove. I could even create a custom field right here. And then when I click on the please choose button, all of the fields will show up, but then I have the option to remove some fields. So you'll notice I chose to remove tax code and item code just to save some space. And then the last little special setting, which it's the same kind of inspector we saw before, but take note that you can click on a column inside of the layout or inside of the table right here, and it has a width. So it's really, really common where you want to take the item width and just make it larger. The default configuration is a little bit small, but depending on how many fields you have, you can control how much size should be present for each one. So you come through and you customize those. And then the last really common thing people are going to do is, you'll have a standard block of text that just exists on the bottom, or really anywhere that you might want to do. So I could put it up here. I could put it wherever I want. It's really common where I put like a block of text on bottom. So in this case, maybe I do the same thing. We create a single column section on bottom, and then we use this free text. So this basically means I'm going to type in whatever I want. So here I can control the font size and everything like that. And then we just type in my legal text here. So between those tools, you should be able to do pretty much everything. There's a little line attribute or line section. So it looks kind of like this blue line, just allows you to segment details. So, it's common to go do little things like this where I'll take the items and then move them apart from all the other areas. Okay. And then we'll just see the final results on that before we go and kind of switch focus into that new company and show you how to set one up from scratch. Okay, so this is what that final result looks like after the couple tweaks that we just made. And what we probably want to do is, a lot of it is just trial and error, figuring out what looks good. So because we put this notes to customer into the section above when I moved it, it doesn't look quite as good as before when we had it centered. So, you can play around with the alignment, play around with how many columns you want in each section, and that'll go and make it look better. So notes to customer, big blocks of text work much better in a single column section. Okay. So then what we want to do is let's get back into the slide deck real fast. Oops, skipped forward one step. And we want to talk about how do you get started. So if you're brand new, you just signed up, what are the steps that you want to run through in order to get your print and web layouts configured? So it starts off is we want to just go and add like our logo and such. You put them into one spot in Apptivo, then all the apps are going to use that. And then, so we talked about like, I changed it to quote in the previous example. So just making sure all the terminology that's presented to the customer, it's consistent, it's what they expect. Then if you do have any sort of custom fields, we can go add them. So I'll show you how to go do that. And the biggest thing is just, remove all the stuff that you're not planning on using. So get it cleaned up. Clean is always better. And then hop in there so we can do like, personal greeting and legal text, which is really just what we saw a moment ago. We're not going to dive too far into that. But these are normally the 5 things that you're going to look at right on day one when you want to get a quote out to your customer. So with that, let's hop in there and let's take that new account. So we're logged in here as Carrie. She is just registered, absolutely nothing in here yet. And let's go start configuring. So the first step was to add your business logo and contact details. And you do this through a central spot. So you log in, you click business settings right here, and then we've got our information. So I'll hop in here, go add our business logo, which I just happen to have it readily available. And that'll take a minute to process. It'll upload it, shrink it down, do whatever sort of resizing it needs. Little usage tip here is once we go and print it, if it doesn't look quite right, you can upload the image with, different borders of like white borders on the side to make it either more of a portrait or more of a landscape photo. And then that can change how it gets presented in the PDF. But then otherwise, we'll just come in. So we'll say we got our central 800 number that we want to be visible on the website. So we'll enter that. Probably have enough numbers. And then we can come in and we can type in an address as well. Okay. So basically you just do that one time, and now any quote we send, any template we build, it automatically pulls this information in. So that's a quick little setup step. And then we move into changing the print and web layout terminology. So we basically go straight into the Estimates app. That's the only thing you want to do outside of Estimates. So everything else here, obviously we have a fresh company. So we're going to hop into the settings. And we're going to go first to print web layouts. Now, typically, if you already know exactly what you're doing, you should go to master layout first because, if we want to create a custom field, we have to create it in master layout, then include it in print web layout. But first, we just want to see what we're working with, right? So we have one default template. It'll be automatically created for you. Quick little note is that when I downloaded the file, it did say, estimates underscore. If I'm going to be changing my terminology, I should probably change this to, like quote underscore quote dash. So I can change how the system creates the PDF file names. And then I'll come into here. So let's just go modify the default template. We don't need to create another one. Although if you were creating templates, just take a note that you can clone the default template, or once you get a custom one, we can clone our existing template. But right now we'll keep it nice and simple. So you'll see our logo and all the business info. It got pulled in automatically. But then let's just start tearing through. We got to change everywhere it says estimate to quote. Now, a lot of the stuff you can just click on and change. This one's kind of like built in there, but what I can do is, here, why don't we delete it? So this is a great example where your free text can replace the purpose. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go and move free text right up in its slot. Right when it comes in, it's not gonna look good. It's aligned over to the left. So in here, we wanna change it out to quote. We'll do all capitals to make it look nice. Align it to the right, change it up to, let's say maybe an 18 font size, make it bold. Suddenly it looks a little better. Maybe we want to crank up the size. So, we'll tweak it. We'll just make it look how we want. Each one of these we could come and adjust the font sizes on. or if you want to add a different number, anything you want to do. So maybe I want to come in here and add like the 1-800. If you want to change these details, you just head back to the business settings. Okay, so then coming on down, estimate number, same thing is obviously we're going to want to change this to quote number instead. Then estimate date makes sense, so quote date, but maybe I just want to say date. Maybe I don't need both of them. And maybe you don't specify a payment term when sending the estimate. So what we'll do is we'll just delete that field. Same thing, I don't want my estimates to expire, so I'll delete that. And then maybe what makes sense for me is I want to have all my customer information over on the right. So I'll start off with the business name, and then I'll say contact name, contact number. And yeah, maybe we'll do the email over there, but maybe I don't like how that's not named consistently. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call that contact email. So no matter what the default configuration comes out as, really it's just up to what do we think works best in this scenario. So then down here, I've got billing and shipping. You know, in a lot of organizations, you don't need the difference between them, where it's really just an address. So I deleted shipping, I'll click on billing, and we'll just call this address. We don't need two different ones. And then, you know, sitting in a one column section like that, maybe that's not the best arrangement anymore. So maybe I want to put it over here. And I'll go delete that entire section, cleaned up a little bit. So then here, I include services in this section. So why don't I just say products and services? Because in my company, a lot of the time what you'll choose is not to use the tasks area, just because it doesn't have a predefined list you can select from. So that way I'm just going to customize products and services. We never charge taxes. I don't need to show the customer any sort of codes. And then we'll go and make the item name longer, just like we did in that previous one. So we'll go and make that like 35% of the width. So then once again, all right, well, we don't ever have a shipping and handling, so we'll remove that. We don't ever have taxes, we'll remove that. Maybe move total up. Down here, generated by Apptivo. So we can go and remove that stuff. And we can just toggle up the visibility, which, okay, actually I've got to go and upgrade my account. I'm currently on the trial here. So you'll just be able to toggle the visibility off on this footer attribute, and then it won't say generated by Apptivo. Okay, so we've got that basic stuff set up. You've basically adjusted your terminology. Now, one little note. You see up here, it still says estimates. And if I choose to go create an estimate, it's still going to be saying estimate inside of here. So all we've done is customize the presentation to the customer. We have not gone and changed what appears to your team internally. So all that stuff, that's all controlled through the master layout. And one of these examples might be like a certain type of shipping method, or maybe there is some other custom details we need to track. So let's talk about that part. I mean, hopping back to kind of our little agenda here is we talked about changing the terminology. We moved a little clutter, and then we want to talk about adding a field in. So the way you do that is we're going to start off by creating an additional field. So this is like a landscaping company. Let's say that their custom field is required project start date or project start date. So I want a date field right here, and then I want to put that date inside of the quote that we send out. So step one, create the field. Head into settings and we go to master layout. And we'll go create the field where we want it to appear inside of the system. So in this case, you know, maybe I'll move this stuff down and then I'll put the field right there. So we'll do a date field. And this is going to be project start. Okay, so we've got that field, we save it. Now we can go and print it into a layout. So we're gonna go modify our print layout, and then maybe we wanna put the project start date right there. So your custom attributes, they're gonna appear under the section that we created them by. So we created it on the bottom of estimate details right there. We simply slide project start over. And you'll notice we could change the label that gets presented to the customer, and it would still be called project start to our team. But I think that's enough. Let's just go and quickly create like a sample estimate. This is a brand new company, so they have no existing customer or anything. So let's just say that we've got a company Maxilon, and I'll throw it on mute real fast while we type in their details. Okay. So we've typed in the information, we got their customer information up here, and then now we have the service that we've just added for 1 hour of consulting. So let's just say that, okay, it's actually 10 hours of consulting that we want on the quote, and we'll go ahead and create an email. So when we click on this PDF file, here's the results of what we just did. So we can see it's named quote, uptrends, consulting 1 hour, and then we would have hidden that. But, oh, we should have selected a project start date. But yeah, so you get the idea of how the whole quote starts to fit together. And yeah, basically that's it. For further information on how to go and customize your quotes in Apptivo, feel free to reach out to us either through a support chat by reaching us out at support@apptivo.com, or feel free to email us at sales@apptivo.com, and we'll be happy to answer any sort of queries. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.